Good morning. Welcome to the Competitive Advantage Talks presented by Ticketmaster. My name is Lindsay Chapman. I'm a first-year MBA student at MIT Sloan. It's my pleasure to get to introduce this presentation, Baseball as a Service, Access-Based Ticketing, and our presenter, Chris Giles, Chief Operating Officer of the Oakland Athletics. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Oh, here, I'm good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. They gave the 9:30 slot to the guy that took a red eye in, so enjoy this one. All right, so high level, access-based ticketing. We're going to start with a little bit of background. I'll then explain it so you don't spend the entire presentation wondering what the hell that means. And then I'll go into kind of why and how it's working out for us and how we see access-based ticketing in the future. So no mystery. Baseball is at a little bit of a crossroads right now. We've got a traditional group of fans that want something very different than the next generation of fans, and as an industry, we're not doing a very good job attracting that next generation. So that was kind of impetus one for the development of this program was, how do we build a new approach to ticketing that is attractive to that next generation without alienating the first? And then secondly, I've always thought that fixed capacity buildings and the business models that we've all utilized to best monetize those fixed capacity buildings is a little flawed, leaves a lot to be desired. We have this on great games, we've got a fixed capacity, you can only sell so many tickets. And how do we get rid of that, what I would call like pretty hard revenue ceiling in our business? So let's make sure that there we go. All right, what is access-based ticketing? The easiest way to think about it is the primary product is access to the venue, as opposed to the primary product being a seat location. So we did this whole campaign that we canceled season tickets. Some of that's PR, some of it's true. But really what we do is we say everybody gets access to the building for all 81 games. There's no membership that we offer that doesn't at least offer that. And then we combine that access with a strip of reserved seats. Some people want a lot of reserved seats, that traditional fan that I talked about. Some people would take zero if we would allow them to. This model, when you come to the ballpark for a game that you don't have a reserved seat, you have a couple options. One, we have programs where you can actually then get a seat after you're in the ballpark. Or we've developed a bunch of much more flexible spaces that don't require a reserved seat. All right, so just to reiterate, we had two objectives. One, the fan objective, attract that new generation of fan without alienating the core. And two, grow revenue by removing that capacity constraint. And the last thing that I would highlight is the secondary market allows fans who purchase, especially our club seats in general, to have a very similar experience to our members. So who here would purchase a country club membership if you could simply go on StubHub and buy a round of golf at any of the golf courses that require a membership? So that's kind of the fourth key thing there is, how can we do this so that we can move benefits from being strictly tied to the ticket? So if you buy a club seat on StubHub, you come in, you one, get into the gate, two, get to sit in that seat, and three, get whatever club privileges come with that seat. So this program actually decouples that third one. So it takes all the club privileges and some of the other privileges and says those are now non-transferable, like a gym membership. So you can get into the club if you're an actual member. If you simply purchase the seat on the secondary market, you get to sit in that seat. All right, so easy way to think about this, I'm gonna make some introductions. This is Ron. Ron's about 62 years old. He has been a season ticket member for 20 some odd years, has great club seats, but just like our average season ticket member, comes to 65% of the games that he buys. We make him buy 81 games because he has great seats. And we say, hey, look, if you have great seats, you got to buy 81 games. He doesn't want 81 games, so he enlists his son to help him sell some on StubHub, some rot in the drawer, so on. Danny and Jeff never came to an A's game before last year. Last year, we blew out a bunch of seats, built these great party decks, indoor, outdoor bars, tiered standing areas. All of a sudden, Danny and Jeff are in. Let's be honest, they really just wanted a cool bar scene, but by about game 8, they found themselves cheering on the team. 3, Michelle. Michelle's a software executive. Grew up with the A's. Her dad had seats right behind home plate. She is a seat snob. She buys Ron's tickets on the secondary market. But she doesn't know when she's going to be able to come, so she doesn't commit. And she feels no need to commit to being a member of the A's because Ron's tickets are readily available. Lastly, there's me. I'm trying to figure out how to get more Danny and Jeffs to come, get them to care about the team, make sure that Ron feels like I'm not just pricing him out every time the team gets good and I have to pull that price lever, making sure that if he, really wants a fixed seat, that it's still available. And lastly, I've got to find a way to convince Michelle to commit to being a member. All right, so when the beauty of our situation in Oakland is we've got a brand new ballpark project that we're working on, which means ownership says spend a ton of money on market research. We did this, massive market feasibility study, and we looked at folks like Ron and folks like Danny and Jeff. So take Ron's ideal experience. He'll tell you that the most important thing to me is my seat location. I want to be as close to home plate as possible, and I take pride in the ownership of my seat. I feel like this is my seat. I have built a community around me. Jane in the row behind me actually brings everyone cupcakes for their birthday. And he really enjoys the consistency of experience. He knows that Cliff, his usher, is at the top of his section every time, and Cliff knows his name. Those are the things you value. When you talk to fans below about 35, not only do they want something different, they actually want the polar opposite. They'll tell you that they decide to go to the games the day of, the day before, that flexibility is key. The whole notion that you would try to sell them a single seat for an entire game, let alone an entire season, is completely unattractive to them. They'll say that what they value most is going with larger groups. We've all sat in traditional seats. You're sitting in a similar setup now. Good luck having a conversation with someone 2 seats over. You can talk to the person on your right, talk to the person on your left. Flexible options allow you to have a bigger group experience. When you ask them where they want to be in the ballpark, they'll say, I want to be where the scene is. They don't actually care whether it's close to home plate. Now, obviously, I'm generalizing. These are like summary statistics. Not everyone in this category thinks this way, but generally, most of them will respond that way. Looking at some secondary research, the most important thing to this group is Wi-Fi connectivity, but right after that are these social experiences. So think about it. I want to come, I want to have that social experience, and I want to share it with everybody. Secondly, the flexibility piece is huge. I mean, we've seen the recent rise of game time. 70% of their users are in that 18 to 34. That platform is growing rapidly. So in summary, we had to have a product that was more social, more flexible, but still worked for Ron. So we'll put away the fan side of the equation for a minute, and then we'll have a little business conversation about the business model that is sports, because that's really kind of the second driver here. So if you look at sports as it is today, you begin to start to look at it through a couple of lenses. One, we are blessed with this zero marginal cost model. We have no cost of goods sold, which can create some interesting pricing dynamics. We have also had a fixed capacity. So if you look at other industries, you start to think about sports, like a hotel, like an airline, and it's no wonder we've adopted the same strategies and faced the same challenges. We focused on yield management for years and years and years, all three industries. Dynamic pricing, how best to price this fixed group of inventory that we have. But we face challenges as well. The isolated transactions are difficult, all three industries. We have to keep you coming back over and over and over again. And guess what? It's expensive to get you to come back over and over and over again. We have to, obviously the hotels and the airlines do this at a whole nother level, but you see teams doing it too. Investing in really expensive, really kind of labor-intensive, value-rich loyalty programs. And that is really just to keep that group coming back. Because fundamentally, we do have the limitation of isolated transactions. Lastly, because we compete so much on price, you've seen the rise of third-party marketplaces in all three of those industries, meaning that we don't get to control the relationships with our customers. So in building the Treehouse last year and kind of the whole party scene, we also rolled out our first subscription product, which was just a monthly fee to come hang out in the Treehouse. You couldn't go to any other part of the ballpark, but you got to go there, and it was unlimited use. So that really sparked us to say, okay, if we just for a minute assume that the future of our industry may include no capacity constraints, or more realistically, less or softer capacity constraints, you begin to see a whole different peer set that looks like our business. You begin to see gyms and country clubs and software companies. And all of these businesses have a completely different approach because they don't have to worry about capacity. And so you see things like membership models that bill monthly. You see them locking folks into much longer term contracts. You see direct customer relationships, and you see no third-party marketplaces. And the key there is exclusivity is an overused word. What I'm really saying there is these benefits, or most of them, are non-transferable. So in order for you to get the benefits, think about this. The access to the ballpark is just like a gym card. It's tied to you, a unique identifier either on your phone or a physical badge that's a barcode that brings up a picture of you. It only works for you, so that element of your experience is non-transferable. In the first year, we're testing a lot of things. Let's be honest, in the Coliseum, we don't have a ton of really beautiful club spaces. But we're doing half-off concessions, 25% off merchandise, free parking, those sort of things just as really tests to say, hey, how valuable are non-transferable benefits? In addition, consumers way overvalue access to things. Like UC Berkeley did a study, the average person who buys a gym membership thinks they're gonna go 9.5 times. They go less than half that. I think we all have been in that situation. We're like, yeah, I'm gonna crush this right here. I'm gonna give me a gym membership. I'm gonna go every Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah, you go once. And so they're willing to pay up front for this access. And when you think about our buildings, you've got a bunch of people who are paying like they were gonna come 20 times a season. They end up showing up at 10 times. And if we haven't already pre-assigned them a seat, we can sell that seat again. And so moving away from selling them fixed seat locations, which can't be resold, to a model that either allows them to have a great experience independent of a fixed seat or allows delayed seat assignment. In other words, we don't actually assign you a seat until you get to the park. The challenge with this model, it's not perfect. This is iteration one. Variability is difficult to deal with. You have no idea who's showing up when. So on average last year, 16% of the people in the Treehouse showed up to any given game. but that ranged from 3 to 54%. And so I'll get into this at the end. We're designing our new ballpark with this whole thing in mind. I don't know how many of you guys have seen the renderings, but we're building a park on top of the ballpark instead of a roof, with basically like some tiered standing and seating areas on the inside perimeter of the park. That whole design is so that when a bunch of people show up for the biggest games, we have somewhere for them to go. This model requires, in a perfect world, 3 types of spaces. The social spaces like the treehouse that we talked about, flexible seating. Standing room only has been a dirty word in our industry for a long time. It's always described a subpar experience that you would only accept if every other option was sold out. So in our new ballpark, we're spending a lot of time developing what we're calling flexible seating. These are seats that we will not sell, that will just be available to anyone that shows up with their access membership. And then lastly, flexible premium. If you're going to sell someone a access-based membership and try to call it premium, you better have some way to treat them like a premium member when they come on their access days. Just real quick, high-level business advantages to this: removes the revenue ceiling. It also allows us to charge a significant premium for only a partial seat inventory. So in other words, our sales team is not positioning, a 20-seat plan with 61 games of access as a quarter season anymore. Everything is positioned as a full season. It's just a matter of how many reserved seats you want in advance. That way we can anchor on the full season price and charge 80% of the full season price, as opposed to what we've all done for years and years of saying, all right, well, we're going to start with a quarter season, and because you didn't buy the whole thing, we're going to charge you 2 or 3% extra as a premium for not taking the whole thing. The non-transferable benefits certainly provide that incentives to people like Michelle to form a relationship with us. It is a lower barrier to entry because we can sell many, many more memberships. And this is big for us in Oakland. We can keep prices low, especially at like the get-in price, and make sure that our product stays accessible. And then lastly, the membership nature of the program really creates a much stickier revenue source. It auto-renews. It never ends. We're envisioning in the new ballpark to basically bill 12 months in advance of the opening of the ballpark, so you're fully paid in full at any time, but it's always hitting that kind of 12-month cycle. All right, just preliminary results. We actually haven't operated a single game under this model. Just keep that in mind. We've just sold it. But we did about 6 times the membership we did the year before, and about 4 times the revenue. Average membership revenue did decrease, but total revenue increased dramatically. And then lastly, I'll just share with you kind of how we're thinking about this new ballpark. So this is the park that I talked about. That's really the roof of the ballpark. This is what those areas look like on the inside. So the thought process here is we're hyper-focused on 2 types of experiences, one of which we'll call a game view flex experience, means like you have a perfect view of the field. But we're also finding that a lot of people are satisfied with, at least a part of their experience, what we would call like a game-connected experience. In other words, it's a flat deck. You can see parts of the field. If something happens, you can run over to the edge type of thing. But we're finding that they don't always need a full view of the park 100% of the time. We will have traditional club seat type products, but we will bundle them with access to an exclusive flexible terrace so that, let's assume they get half a game in that reserved club seat. The other half of the game, they may check in on this level with a concierge and then get assigned a club seat on this level as they show up. We're building party areas that were really inspired by the success of the treehouse. And we're also keeping in mind that taking kids to a ball game, especially baseball, and getting them to sit in their seat for 9 innings is an uphill battle. And so we're dedicating a significant portion of the outfield space to areas designed for flexible family experiences. And with that, like I said, we have just come up with this idea and we've sold it. We have not actually operated this, and this by no means is the answer. But I think what we're discovering is that one, the increased flexibility and the increased social draw of this sort of platform and these sort of spaces is resonating. And two, the upside that we're able to create by removing that revenue ceiling is powerful. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. If you guys want to ask questions, have at it. Yeah. Yeah, actually, the big legal issue that we've run into is around the Truth in Lending Act, and because when we're signing them up for a subscription that auto renews, we basically have to get them to sign the TILA disclosure. As it pertains to the transferability, so one of the things that I didn't mention is we will allow you to transfer the benefits to anyone that you designate. So like this is like, as soon as you start selling like, these sort of products to businesses, they're like, well, it's not the same 4 people that come, it's a different 4 people every time. So all we've done is basically stripped out the club access from the ticket, and so that's actually a separate kind of access piece. And I think it does affect value, right? Like if you're looking at something and all of a sudden a portion of your benefits are non-transferable, like your willingness to pay comes down a little bit because you now no longer have that like full monetization outlet of the secondary market. But when you can sell so much more volume and you have a product that's much more consumable, we feel like we can make that up on volume. Yes?
If I'm an Access member and I want to bring a friend with me for one game, can they pay a single day rate and get the same experience with me?
Just like a day that you don't have a seat?
No, if I'm a member and and I like the experience and I want to bring a friend for one game.
Yeah, we still have single game tickets. Yeah, you.
Can they go to this treehouse with me?
All of those spaces except that kind of illustrative club level type space that we have designed in the new ballpark are all open to everyone. So like whether you have a seat or don't have a seat, like these are all designed to be like purely flexible spaces. So you could, in theory, buy a general admission ticket and have that exact same experience on a single game basis. Yes?
What tools or mechanisms are you using to really be able to track and analyze the increased complexity of CRM?
That's a good question. One of the things we're finding is because we've actually made things non-transferable, it like operationally requires us to verify identity throughout the process, which means now we're going from understanding whether a ticket was scanned to understanding that an individual showed up. And it's also tied to parking and concessions and retail. So we know actually what individuals, I say this, in theory we will know, we haven't actually operated a game. Then in theory we'll understand all of those different checkpoints. So I think from a CRM perspective, it just takes the data from the account level to the individual level. Yes?
Can you talk about conversations you had to overturn the revenue model to something unknown, and then what that cost-benefit calculation was like?
For better or worse, I inherited a pretty poor situation when I got to the A's. We didn't have this massive, group of fans that we were focused on, renewing in the same model. But I think also what we made sure not to do in the first iteration was take things away. So even, let's say you had the full 81 reserve seat plan, you can still buy that in the access model. So we're not preventing that. And so I think that was the biggest distinction is, hey, this is actually only providing you additional benefits that you didn't have before in access to additional games, plus the concessions and those sort of things. Yes? You mean just like getting MLB.TV data into like our data warehouse? I don't know. Is that true, Mark?
Yeah, through MLB has a pretty robust, it's called Wheelhouse, where they share the data back with us. So that's definitely one of our feeds.
Yes, last question.
How will playoff access work with these kind of areas? Ultimately, you do still have a capacity issue.
Yeah. And we have one additional piece of complexity that currently every seat has to be manifested for playoffs. And so the way that we're thinking about it is, one, based on your kind of membership tier, you'll have varying degrees of access. The highest tier will be able to buy every game. The other folks we may have to split. I kind of view that as like, hey, if that's our issue, like we're crushing it. But also, you know, a lot of these locations are manifestable, right? So it's like you can put, you know, stickers on the edge of standing drink rails. You can put high top chairs behind them. And so we'll develop a plan to kind of manifest the locations. So you may have, in our new ballpark, we may build as small as like 27,000 fixed seats. But the ballpark capacity may be somewhere in the low 40,000s. And so I don't know if we'll get there on a full reserve seat basis, but I think in terms of the number of people we'll be allowed in per like the fire marshal, we'll be able to get up to that range. All right, thank you very much. I'm out of time. Thank you guys.